because there's something about art that's like magic. You know, it's like this illusion, and you know,
Yeah.
somebody does a realistic portrait, and you go, wow, that, you know, it's like this. But I think, you know, where I was lucky is that George Israel kind of introduced me to something much deeper. Because, you know, he would say, forget about getting the likeness. If you forget about getting the likeness, you'll get the likeness.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you look at other things, you'll get the likeness as a sort of byproduct. And I think, you know, the other thing that was great about him is that he was very freeing. You know, I've never lost this thing that I don't worry about things like that. Even if I'm doing a portrait commission, or I know that I will do better in that respect if I just to stop worrying about it and let go. And he also taught me to make mistakes, to not worry about making mistakes, to be loose and free. And that's something you know, because I teach adults quite a lot now, and I actually have to say to them, very often they get quite tight in the way they're working. And I go around the class, so every 20 minutes I'll look at somebody's work. And if somebody's getting a bit tight, I say to them, I want you to make 3 mistakes by the time I get back to you in 20 minutes. And I said, that's an order. I want 3 mistakes. And it really works quite well. It discombobulates them and gets them into a better frame of mind. And the other thing I tell them is, I want you to make it 60% right, only 60% right, and then move on to the next bit, and then make that 60% right. Because otherwise they stay on one bit, trying to make it 100% right. And then the whole thing is just lost. I mean, they just get lost in this obsession with trying to be correct.
Yeah, but I think I can understand that, because I think when we create something, we want it to be something, you know. You don't want to think, okay, I'm creating something, but it doesn't matter, it's a mistake. I did a few bread baking workshops, and I found that even in bread baking, that people can get extremely nervous about, and actually it's flour and water, and salt, you know. It's all it is. It's not the most expensive thing. If it doesn't work, you throw it out. And it's almost as if people take it so seriously that it has to be the perfect bread, and it doesn't have to be. And I can imagine that even if you take a, you know, paint and you sit in front of a canvas, of course you want to make it sort of something beautiful.
Yeah, but the problem is that what you really want ultimately is to make the whole feel beautiful. Yeah. Whereas what people do is they get stuck on one small area. So even if they did that really well, it's kind of meaningless, because what people see is the whole picture.
That's true.
So yeah.
But I saw your there are 2 things that I want to say, but let me first say this one. I spoke to an architect a few days ago, and his interview will be coming up, and he said something interesting that also made me think. And he said that he's exploring different mediums that he's using, but he hasn't found the place yet where he feels it makes sense what he's doing, or it has a meaning what he's doing. So in art, did you also get that point? Did you also go through a time where you sort of painted and did paintings, but didn't feel yet it's something that has a meaning, or did it come easy for you? Did it come quickly for you?
That's a really good question. I mean, yes, I've definitely um, uh, struggled with that for years and years. Sometimes without really realizing it. You
Really?
know, I would do paintings and they'd sort of be okay, but I would just feel like there was something not quite right. And I think it's to do with the fact that there's this kind of tradition in figurative painting, and there's certain subjects you do, certain conventional ways um, you compose, um, and you can get sucked into to being quite conventional, and then you're on a deeper level, you're slightly dissatisfied, and you don't know why. But the answer, the reason is that um, you're rendering something nicely, but you're not actually saying anything. And I, it took me a very long time to really to realize that every painting, every sculpture I do, I've got to say something. And I used to have a rather sort of harsh mantra that I would say to myself, which was, if you don't have anything to say, don't say anything.
Okay.
You know, so I would, the upshot was that I would, what I'm essentially telling myself is, put your brush down and stop. You don't have to produce 25 paintings a day.
Oh yeah.
So if you're just going through the motions, don't do it. Do something else. Um, and just wait, because the urge to say something will come pretty quickly anyway. Um, but I think also that because painting and sculpture are such technical, there's an awful lot to learn just technically, and you can get lost in that. And you're trying all the time to resolve these technical problems um, to do with um, drawing, or you're getting yourself in a twist, um, and then you just lose sight of the whole point of doing it in the first place, which is to communicate with other people, to show them what's in you that you want to share with them.
But isn't it also that the case of the more you know, the more sort of self-critical you become? That you sort of think, oh, this cannot be right, or this shouldn't be like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think you become self-critical like really early on. I mean, it's interesting because there's a sort of a really great book that came out in the 1980s called Drawing with the Right Side of the Brain, by Betty Edwards, I think, who is an American art teacher. And it was a really popular book, and it came out around the time that I was learning to draw and paint. And what's interesting about her is that she had this wide experience with different age groups. And there's quite a lot in the book where she contrasts the way that young children, like prepubescent children, the way they draw, and the way the same children will draw once they're teenagers.